Many moons ago now, when I first read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, my life changed forever. It was because of this book that I had my very first experience of realizing for the first time in my life that I am more than my thoughts and I am so much more than my emotions. And more importantly, that the now, the present moment, is the true key to liberation. It's the key to freedom, and it's the key to enjoying your life at this very moment. Because the truth is, the now is all we ever have. But despite this very simple and life-changing advice of just live in the now, bro, just be present and everything will sort itself out, I often found myself at a crossroad. I often found myself in situations where I would face obstacles in my life, I would have big and challenging decisions to make, and I would often almost need to go back to some sort of thinking in order to get myself through these situations smoothly. But luckily for us, our boy Eckhart was a few steps ahead, and in the book, The Power of Now, Tolle suggests a 3-step process that not only helps you navigate challenging situations, but to be present and grounded in those challenges so that you make the best decisions possible from a place of presence and not from a place of fear. And honestly, this process has helped me personally stay grounded. It's helped me take action where I could take action. It's helped me to accept difficult situations, and most importantly, perhaps, it's allowed me to leave situations that weren't serving me. Because the truth is, even though yes, you gotta live in the now and you have to be present to the moments, that doesn't mean sitting your ass down and accepting your fate whenever faced with a challenging or difficult situation. Welcome to the game of life. My purpose is to help as many people as I possibly can wake up to the truth that life is this beautiful game that is meant to be experienced and is meant to be enjoyed, so that you can start living your life to the absolute fullest and start taking risks so that you can truly live a life with as few regrets as humanly possible. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to improve upon this incredible 3-step process that Tolle outlines in his life-changing book, so that it is even more powerful and more effective and more practical in your everyday life. And now you may be asking, well, that sounds cool, bro, but how are you going to improve upon this amazingly well thought out process from an enlightened spiritual master? Clearly, what have you got to add to this conversation? I believe that sometimes it really does take somebody on the ground level in order to pick up on something that our enlightened spiritual leaders might not. And I really, truly believe I've picked up on a very small, yet very effective, not flaw to the plan, but I've definitely picked up on something that I believe, if reshaped, if considered a different way, would just allow this process to just hit that much harder. So to answer the question, let us first go through the original 3-step process that Eckhart Tolle outlines in The Power of Now. And to do that properly, let's use the example of an everyday problem that many people experience, unless you're chronically single like me, which is fighting with your romantic partner. So let's say it's you and your missus or your mister, whatever you're into. You got into this massive fight. Maybe John didn't clean the dishes again. Maybe Sally forgot to take the dogs for a walk and she hasn't loved you like she did when you first met. And, your parents or her, stepmother's a bitch. Whatever fight comes to mind most naturally for you, bring that up right now. And let us apply this 3-step process to solving that problem as outlined by Tolle. So the first suggestion that Eckhart makes is, can you take action to change the situation? And this is a very logical approach that even Tolle mentions is something you should consider. Again, his message is to accept and live in the present moment, but that doesn't mean that you can't be taking action to change things that are unfavorable for you. And so he suggests, take action. Do what you can to improve upon or change the situation. So for example, in the case of fighting with your partner, you could decide to have a sit-down talk where you kind of establish boundaries and you try to figure out a solution. You could go up to your mother-in-law and tell her to stop being a bitch. You could do anything, right? You could literally break up the partnership if that is what you decide to do, if it is at that extent, right? There are 1,000,001 actions that you could possibly take to hopefully improve the situation at hand. So once you've taken action and you've realized that you've gotten to the end of the wall in terms of things you can do, or you realize that there is literally no action that you could possibly take in the situation, or maybe there's no action that you feel comfortable taking, the second part of this process now suggests that you perhaps leave the situation. So kind of going back to what we said about breaking up the partnership, you could decide, if you so choose, to back out of the situation altogether. If you feel as though this relationship is no longer serving you and you've tried to be present in the moment with the person and you've tried to be mindful and understanding and accepting and it's just going nowhere, now's the time to take a little detour and perhaps start something new or be alone for a little while. So the second point is, can I leave the situation? And you'll find this with many other examples. Can you leave the job that you hate? Is it possible to leave the country that you despise living in? And finally, for step 3, if you realize that no action can be taken or you can't leave the situation, maybe you're a hostage prisoner experiencing, what's that thing called, where like the prisoners get attached to their guards. Shoot, I need to really prepare my research before these videos. I think it's Stockholm Syndrome. If I get that wrong, please just correct me in the comments. But, let's say you can't leave this person and you don't want to take action. Then the third step of this process that Tolle recommends is, can you accept the situation? Now's the time to really, consider the fact that nothing can be done. And as a result, the only rational course of action is for you to step back and say, all right, it is what it is. Actually, even though that's a silly saying that we throw around a lot in our society now, it is what it is a seriously profound mantra for total surrender, to allow yourself to realize that there are so many things in my control that I can deal with, but there's also a few things that are going to cause me a lot of misery if I don't step back and accept those things. So in the case of the partnership, you accept the person as they are. You realize that there are a few things that you'll never change about them, but deep down you might love them. And you realize that the best course of action for you is to fully embrace whoever they are and embrace what the relationship is. And paradoxically, by accepting the things you cannot change, those negative experiences tend to become a positive experience. Hint, hint for what we are about to discuss now in the improved process. So as you can see, this is an incredibly powerful 3-part framework that works remarkably well and should be followed in times of distress. This is a fantastic tool in your spiritual back pocket. But here's the problem, at least in my opinion. As I've already mentioned, Eckhart Tolle and even people like the Buddha have a foundational core message that pretty much underlies all spiritual teachings, as far as I can see. That lesson is the acceptance of the now and the releasing of all of one's attachments. By truly releasing our attachments and allowing ourselves to live spontaneously and freely and joyfully in the present moment, we can learn to surrender and enjoy life fully and not let our minds totally mess everything up for us. In simple terms, we learn to let go and go with the flow. With this philosophy in the back of your mind, going back to step 1 of Tolle's process, which was taking action. Here's a question. Have you ever been in a situation where you tried so damn hard to change or to fix or to strategize a certain course of action, where you spent hours and maybe days and weeks overthinking a problem and really tried to force change for a desired outcome? And despite all of this overthinking and trying harder and forcing things, you actually made the situation a hell of a lot worse than what it originally was. Going back to the relationship example, maybe you tried so hard to make the other person love you again. Maybe the spark had fizzled out in the relationship and you thought, if only I love her more, if only I buy her more flowers and give her more attention. And I know a lot of you guys have been down this rabbit hole. It's almost like a path to manhood. So again, natural character development, but we've all been there where we tried harder. We tried to make the other person see, if only she knew how much I loved her. You see all these dramatic poems and stories about these men putting themselves through hell and back to prove their love and valor. And the woman watching this video could probably agree with me. The harder we try, the more we push that person away, or the more we tend to kind of give women the ick, if you want to talk in 21st century terms, right? We turn women off, and you turn people off by trying harder than you should, because it just makes the situation and the relationship feel forced, feel unnatural, and as a result, it's like two magnets opposing each other. The more you force them together, the more they draw apart from each other. Trying too hard can actually have the total opposite effect. And then you realize that only once you step back and you say, it is what it is, right? You kind of give up on the situation altogether. Maybe you realize that this relationship is a lost cause and you just throw it up to the universe and you say, well, I've done what I can. I'll take action out of a natural inspiration to do so or out of love, but I'm not going to force things anymore. And you realize in that moment when you finally give up the need for control and the need for a specific outcome, it's then and only then that things start to finally go your way, and the desired outcome naturally happens. Funny how that works, huh? Been there too many times. Frustrating, but it definitely seems to be the case. This right here is the problem that I don't think Eckhart Tolle or many other spiritual leaders see in this three-step process. And that is the fact that if you try to start with action, but you do it in the wrong way with the wrong intentions, you can actually make the situation a whole lot worse than better, because you forgot the original message that he speaks about, which is acceptance, which is surrender, which is letting go and allowing things to be as they are so that things can naturally solve themselves. I mean, how can you take right action out of that state of neediness and attachment, out of a state of not being open to the spontaneity and the wonder of life around you? Therefore, I would personally argue that you should not start by taking action, as Tolle suggests. You need to actually start with surrender. You need to start with letting go of an outcome and acceptance of the situation so that you can then paradoxically take what I like to call surrendered action. Because it's only once we release our firm grip on the things we are attached to, it's when we do not have this desire and this need for a specific outcome, that is when we stop fighting the force of life and we start to flow with it. You might think I'm crazy, but take a moment and think back on experiences that you've had in your own life. Think back on relationships where things just got worse and worse and worse. The more you tried and the more you tried, the more you desperately needed the specific job or the specific house or the specific friend. Look back on moments when nothing seemed to be working out for you. And then all of a sudden you just thought, you know what? I'm tired of this nonsense. I've had enough of trying. It is what it is. And then all of a sudden, like magic, things came right. You stopped panicking so much. Your body just got nice and relaxed and loose. And all of a sudden, everything just found a way. Whether it was in the way you expected it to work out or in a totally new way that surprised you. Either way, life worked itself out, as life tends to usually do. This is actually known as the backwards law. And Mark Manson describes it so perfectly by saying, desiring a positive experience is in itself a negative experience, whilst accepting a negative experience is a positive experience. Let's say your relationship isn't working out, and out of pure action and a pure desire to fix things, you buy more flowers, you clean the house properly, you take your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or girlfriend on more dates, you start giving them compliments, you smile more, you just do everything in your power to be the perfect little boy or perfect girl to your partner. You took action, right? But the problem is, like I said, taking action might make you more clingy. It just makes the other person feel like strangled and smothered and like they've lost their freedom with you. And it also makes the relationship feel totally unnatural because you're no longer this cool, suave, relaxed go-getter that you used to be. Now you're this desperate little puppy trying so hard to get the attention of your owner. You have given away your power and your sense of independence to this person to make you happy. However, there is an alternative. Let's say you decided to totally surrender the relationship. You decided that it may end. Maybe it's not what I want, but I can bring myself to realize that this relationship might not last forever. And you surrender it to the gods, to the universe, to the spiritual forces of life, whatever you want to call it, right? But then out of this surrender, you would start to take action out of a pure giving energy. You would start to love the person for who they are instead of trying to change the way things are. You would literally look at the situation and say, well, it may not be ideal right now, but it's okay, you know? And you'd relax into that relationship. And as a funny, like I said, paradoxical result, your partner might start feeling a little bit more relaxed around you. They might start realizing that, hey, this person's going to be okay without me. That's kind of attractive. And I would want to be with a person like that. You'd want to be with a person that sets you free, that allows you to be the man or woman that you are naturally becoming, because we all grow, we all change. And so if you are with a partner that restricts that flow of change and that flow of energy, that's going to be a shitty time. And this, my friend, paradoxically leads to the relationship likely going your way. Or All right, so I feel like the universe is testing me because the power just went off and I'm really pissed off about that. Apologies for the changing in lighting situation. I was going to stop the video and then I realized this is a perfect example of taking surrendered action, right? I could resign myself and say, screw this shit, I'm leaving. Or I could decide, I'm not going to let a bit of light stop me. I'm going to accept the situation and we're going to carry on with this video. So hope you appreciate the practical use of taking surrendered action in a practical situation. So let's continue. So the question becomes, how do we actually go about doing this? What is the change that we need to make to Eckhart Tolle's 3-step process that allows us to start taking more surrendered action instead of forceful action? We do this by simply reversing the steps in Tolle's original process. And instead of starting with action, I would actually recommend that it is best and always applicable to start with acceptance. To start with, can I allow this situation to be as it is? And then out of that state of surrender, out of that state of pure willingness and acceptance, then take right action. So then the new process would ideally look like acceptance of the situation, step 1. Step 2, take action out of that surrendered state. Step 3, leave the situation if need be, and then rinse and repeat. Go back to accepting the new situation. Another bonus tip I have for you today, if you do struggle with this idea of surrendering and then taking action out of letting go, which can be very, very difficult and challenging, it takes some practice, but a very useful tool that has helped me so much in terms of just coming to terms with things that I don't really like or I don't want to happen, like the ending of a relationship. I partake in a practice known as playing the movie all the way to the end. And essentially what this means is take the situation, let's go back to the relationship where you are afraid of a breakup, and literally play the movie to the end and look at the worst case scenario. Ask yourself, what is the very worst thing that could happen here, right? And in your situation, it may be that this person leaves and that you never see them again. And even though at first, yes, that's a hit to like the heart and the stomach, sit with that feeling of they might leave. Then ask yourself, will I be okay? Will I live on and could I potentially enjoy a life after this relationship? Is it possible for me to meet, I don't know, one of the other 6 billion women, or I don't know what the ratio is anymore, but one of the other couple billion women or men on this planet and maybe find somebody else to love? Once you can really start to surrender to that possibility, it's only then that you start to be free of that attachment to needing that specific outcome. And as a result, you are no longer afraid of taking risks, of saying what you truly feel and what you truly think to the other person. You start becoming your natural self. And as mentioned, learning to surrender essentially means learning the process of letting go. As I hope you have seen from this entire video, the art of letting go is so crucial for you to live a happy, carefree, and peaceful life where you can just flow with the nature of things and accept the way this beautiful and chaotic world tends to be. And it's only with that letting go can you truly start to become one with life and enjoy it for what it really is and not for what you think it should be. Watch this video next where I will teach you how to finally let go and release those attachments so that life can start working for you instead of against you. And if all else fails, ask yourself, if life was a game, how would I play?